Hello there. So after all of the drama that we've been having this week regarding the show, I just got done watching episode 3 of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have to say, I honestly loved it. I also want to clarify that last week's review was a little bit rushed because I had to get out, I was busy that evening and I needed to leave, so I did miss out certain things that many of you have pointed out in the comment section, and I'm hoping that this review is going to be a lot more thorough and conveys my thoughts a lot better, because not only have I had time to watch it and really think about it, I also went back and watched it again, and as always there's going to be spoilers in this video because I literally can't review it without them, so you have been warned. So to start things off, it's another incredible performance from Ewan McGregor, and I can't speak more highly of how incredible his body language and his facial acting is. Every single time we get a close-up shot of Obi-Wan, you can see he's in visible distress. He doesn't need to say anything, but you know that this man is suffering. And after learning that Darth Vader is still alive, you can feel it even more. And also, I have nothing but high praise for the kid that plays Leia. I personally don't know why this kid's getting so much hate. Well, I mean, I do, it's the Star Wars fandom, it can be brutal. But for me, this kid embodies everything about Carrie Fisher's Leia, and I personally find her a joy to watch. This episode continues that awesome dynamic that they are building between a young Leia and Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I thought the small moment where Leia is talking to Obi-Wan about whether or not he knew her mother, whether or not he was her real father, was fantastic. And again, this is a credit to their performances. When little Leia is talking about wanting to know her father and wanting to know who her mother was, you can feel not only the pain in Leia's voice, but the absolute pain in Obi-Wan's heart when she says it. Because he knew just how incredible Padme and Anakin were, but he had just learned that Darth Vader was alive and he literally couldn't bring himself to say anything to this poor girl. And personally, I loved every single second between Obi-Wan and Leia, and for me, so far, it's one of the highlights of the show, and the additional length of this episode also gave us time to have those moments, while also giving us the big moments that we got later. Now, as the episode started, another one of my big criticisms is again a boring desert planet. I don't know what it is with Disney Wars, but they are absolutely obsessed with completely drab environments. The Book of Boba Fett did this, The Mandalorian did this, the movies did this, and now Obi-Wan Kenobi has done this, just after we get off of Tatooine too. I don't know if this is a budgetary restraint, I don't know if it's a limitation with the volume, but honestly, I am so sick of seeing boring desert planets that have no vibrancy, no life, no character, nothing. We are in the Star Wars universe. There are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of planets. Why do we keep ending up on these planets that are just so unbelievably lackluster to look at? However, this criticism is flipped upside down as we are thrown into Mustafar and Vader's castle, and this is where we get Darth Vader for the first time in the show. And this set looked fantastic, as did the shot of moving through Mustafar, and I don't get why we can't get more of that. Anyway, all I can say is that I loved it. I have been a Darth Vader fanboy for as long as I had conscious memory. I literally have a Darth Vader helmet above me and a Darth Vader lightsaber. I love this character, and in the short time that he does appear in this episode, it's incredible. And I also need to highlight the insane performance by James Earl Jones. This man is 91 years old, and I always felt like his voice was waning a little bit in Rogue One and Star Wars Rebels. But wow, did he bring back his youth and his power for this episode. Darth Vader hasn't sounded this good since the original trilogy. Every single line, every single piece of delivery is spot on to how Darth Vader sounded 40 years ago. And like I just said, this for me is honestly James Earl Jones' best Darth Vader performance that we've had in nearly half a century, and I'm all for it and I can't wait to hear more. Now, we will talk about Darth Vader more in just a bit, but we have to switch over to the other villain of the show, and that is Reva. I feel really sorry for Moses Ingram. She doesn't deserve any of the abuse that she's getting, and I would have thought that we would have learned collectively as a fandom how devastating it is to abuse actors for their performances as characters, and it's sad to see that it's happening again. And I don't mind Reva as a character inherently. She is embodying the idea of a wannabe Sith. She is just constantly trying to get power and to one-up everyone else, and she's just generally horrible. But with that said, I don't get the point of her character. It definitely feels like Reva has been put into the show so that she could just do the job of the Grand Inquisitor. And for me, it begs the question, why not just have the Grand Inquisitor? For him, you wouldn't need a character arc, you wouldn't need to waste time with character development because this is all done in other media, and so you're just going to have a good out-and-out villain that does the job of being the villain. But Reva is literally in this show acting as the Grand Inquisitor. She is trying to become the Grand Inquisitor, and Vader promises her the role of Grand Inquisitor if she finds Obi-Wan. But we know that's never going to happen because of future stories, so it kinda just feels like it's a waste of time in this one. And I feel like Reva's character arc is taking time away from Obi-Wan and Leia, and even Darth Vader potentially moving forward. But with that said, there's still 3 more episodes to go, so I'll reserve my full judgment on the character until I've seen the full story play out. As we're moving through the episode, Obi-Wan sees literal ghosts of Anakin Skywalker, and it was quite eerie the way they did it. I thought that was done really well, and it was great to see Hayden as Anakin rather than Darth Vader, and we can see that Obi-Wan is being traumatized by his own mind, and they then catch a ride with a cool-looking alien who is an Imperial sympathizer, and they didn't realize this initially, and they are then pulled over by the Empire. We of course then get a little fun fight scene when they realise who Obi-Wan actually is, and then they are captured, but it turns out that the officer that captured them is actually a rebel, and I like this character. I think that Indira Varma does a really good job of giving off the presence of an Imperial officer, but I also liked that kind of switch of her actually coming to realise that the Empire is just cruel. And even though she wasn't in the episode much, I think she did a good job of being a sympathetic Imperial, and I hope that we see more of her. And additionally, there's another thing here to note that I think many of you may have missed, and that is she helped somebody called Vaylin Halcyon, who, by the way, is none other than the father of the one and only Corran Horn from the Star Wars Expanded Universe, and a very beloved character. We also meet a droid that can't speak because it's a loader, but it's her droid, and I like the design of it. But the real meat and bones of this episode was, of course, the interaction between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan. When Obi-Wan is captured, this alerts the Inquisitors that he's on this planet, and Darth Vader personally goes to get him. And the very first scene that we see of Darth Vader just walking through this dark street trying to lure Obi-Wan out of hiding was incredible. Hayden Christensen was not lying when he said that we will be seeing a Darth Vader that is unhinged, and it's quite possibly one of the most brutal moments I've ever seen in Star Wars. Vader is literally force-choking innocent people to try and bait Obi-Wan out. He uses the Force to break a kid's neck, and he is dragging citizens through the dirt. And this is the Darth Vader that we were promised, and they did deliver. We then, of course, move a little bit further on in the episode, and it is just Darth Vader and Obi-Wan coming face-to-face for the first time, and I enjoyed this whole interaction. My only real criticism of this entire scenario is the way it's shot sometimes make it feel a little bit fan-filmy. This moment is supposed to be a huge cinematic moment, and there were parts where Obi-Wan is just kind of running away behind a hill of dirt, and it just looks really low budget. But when Obi-Wan isn't running away and we finally get the two clashing, it's everything that I wanted, and I know full well it's just a teaser for what we are going to get. And you can see in this entire sequence that Vader is just toying with him. I know a lot of people wanted big, brutal action, but I think this is way better. It, in a way, mirrors their meeting on the Death Star in A New Hope. Vader is finally getting that moment that he has been waiting 10 years for, and he's not going to be overwhelmed by his desire to kill. Obi-Wan is useless, he is struggling, and he is outmatched, and Vader knows this, and it's like a predator playing with its prey. I also really liked how they shot this entire sequence in the dark. It makes Vader that much more terrifying, and it also makes the lightsabers that much more vibrant, and for me it's one of the best Vader scenes that we've had in Star Wars. Vader sets these crystals which kind of act as oil alight and creates this sea of fire, and then he tries to essentially torture Obi-Wan the way that he tortured Anakin on Mustafar, and he just grabs Obi-Wan with the Force and just buries his head in the flames, and Obi-Wan is screaming, and you can see the satisfaction that Vader is getting from it. And I absolutely love this scene because we're really getting to see what Darth Vader wants to actually do to Obi-Wan. He wants to torture him, he wants to make him suffer. And again, it's all topped off by an incredible voice performance by James Earl Jones. But Obi-Wan is ultimately saved by Tia and the loader droid as she shoots the fuel thing which separates Vader and Obi-Wan between the flame, and they just manage to narrowly escape. Meanwhile, Leia is running through an escape tunnel to meet with a pilot that's going to take her to Alderaan, and this is another huge criticism from me. Reva manages to miraculously find the hideout for no real reason other than that she just walks into the building and finds it. She then just finds the escape tunnel that Leia's been running through for like 15 minutes at this point, and then all of a sudden Reva's at the end of this tunnel before Leia, and she captures her. To me, this is just incompetent writing to get Reva where she needed to be for the big cliffhanger ending, and it was a glaring issue for me. I just rolled my eyes. Now this is where the episode comes to a close, and I only have two major issues with it. Number one, I've already mentioned, kind of, is the way it's shot. I think parts of the cinematography in the fight between Obi-Wan and Vader were incredible, especially the fight scene, but other parts of it felt a bit limited, a little bit fan-filmy. And again, I don't know if this is the budget, or if it's the director, or if it's the volume technology, but something felt a little bit off, and they also need to tone down the shaky cam because it doesn't fit the Star Wars aesthetic. This entire moment for me should have been way more cinematic, and it just felt like it missed that cinematic flair. And secondly is the music. We are having the first ever meeting between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader since Revenge of the Sith. And the music and the soundtrack for Darth Vader especially is absolutely dogshit. There was no Imperial March, there was no iconic Star Wars music from the original trilogy. It's just this really crappy, boring, dark theme that doesn't represent Darth Vader in any capacity, and it's actually one of my biggest gripes with the series so far. I said in my last video that the music was a letdown because it just did not fit the John Williams orchestral theme that he made for Obi-Wan in this show. You have this epic piece of orchestral music that was composed by one of the greatest of all time, and then every other bit of music that goes around it is just lackluster and poor. And so it feels really, really off, and again, really kind of fan-filmy. Tonally, the music just does not fit the theme of Star Wars in my personal opinion, and while it probably is not going to, I really do hope that it improves in future episodes. But there we have it, those are my opinions for episode 3 of Kenobi. As I said last week, I'm still a little bit concerned that we've only got 3 episodes left. Seems kinda limiting for a story of this caliber, but we'll just have to wait and see if they can pull it off in the short time that we do have left. Let me know in the comment section below what you thought of this week's episode, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button, it helps me out a great deal, and perhaps consider subscribing so you're notified when next week's review of Kenobi is available. I'll see you guys in the next video. But until then, may the Force be with you. Always.